Sometimes it's difficult for these guys to understand that we're not a 12-week program, and we're a fucking rebuild, mate.
In my mind, we're the best within the industry.
It's simple, but it's not easy. And the reason that it's not easy is because you have to get over your old excuses, your old standards, your old identity. But the process itself is actually really simple.
The goal with those boot camps is A to B. Let's get you there as quickly as possible. Even if it's a torturous process, you're going to get there. But you're not ever thinking about B to C, which is the maintenance of that process.
The average amount of training time for our clients is 4 to 5 times a week for an hour. If you claim you can't find that, you're lying.
Life is painful. Do you want the pain of regret or do you want the pain of discipline?
Yeah.
Which one do you want?
How do we calm the pop natty? No holds barred. Yeah, well, we're leaning towards a bit of no holds barred, aren't we? Okay, so here we are, recording episode number 5, the Coach's Corner, with MPT alumni and founding partners, Coach Eman, and the gatekeeper himself, Joey Angles, the man behind the camera, oftentimes. And today's topic is just going to be the same old stuff that we talk about, right? Why some guys 30, 35 plus, 40, 45, 50 get results, and why others, or most, unfortunately, don't. So I want to start by saying yesterday we were filming with a couple of success clients, one in which you were the co-coach of, and one in which I've coached since day one, 14 months ago. So we'll start with Mubasa, I think. So Indian client, 35 years old. I believe he's an Uber driver, living in Perth at the moment. And he lost 38 kilos, got his body fat from 44% down to 7.5. He had 5.6 kilos of fat on his second DEXA scan. Joe, you saw him yesterday. Do you think he's under 10% body fat?
Yeah, easily.
Easily, yeah. So quite impressive. Probably the best in-body scan result that I've seen as a coach from a client. Unfortunately, I think you were as lean as him. We were actually discussing this yesterday, weren't we? Yeah.
He looked good. Both of you looked good when you were that lean.
Who looked better?
Well, you definitely have leaner arms. Hard to say. I think E-Man was leaner. But the interesting thing is, on that little side note here, is that for some reason you and Suki both scored higher on the in-body scans due to potential loose skin. Yeah. So not you so much, more Suki. He scored I think 13% body fat when he definitely wasn't. Because a little bit of that kind of pouch that some of these guys get that lose. You know, they go from 100 and I think I think Suki was 130 kilos at 5'11", and he went down to 77. So obviously there's some, and it was quite quick. It was about 12 months, 18 months. So there's often a little pouch that's left over. So that kind of sometimes can skew the scans, like yours. Remember,
I think mine was 11%, and I was like,
you definitely weren't 11%. No, not even close.
the veins on my abs. I was like,
Yeah. So it was interesting with Mubasha yesterday. I would say he wasn't as lean as what you were, but he scored better than you. So as far as the in-body scan, he's the best scan that I've seen, even better than my recent ones. Not quite as good as my ones before comp, but anyway. And we filmed with him. He lost 38 kilos in total, went from 44% body fat down to 7.5 on a scan. And we filmed with Josh Weir, who you're the co-coach of inside the MPT rebuild. And he went from 30% body fat all the way down to 10.2. He scored 10.2 yesterday.
Yeah, I did see that. That was
that
incredible.
scan, which is awesome. And he looked great. He had, a bit of vascularity, a bit of veins and stuff, but he had a little bit of the pouch. But it was insane filming with both those guys back to back. And to speak openly, Joe does sales as well inside the MPT rebuild, and he closed 3 sales last night out of 3 calls.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And, being involved in sales and network marketing, things that I've done before, I know the psychology and the certainty that you have in your tonality. And I asked you today at the gym, I said, do you think you closed 3 sales last night because you'd come off the back of filming these 2 guys and you had certainty on what the rebuild system can do and what the program does? What was your answer?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you see a guy like that in person, who's both of them in combined dropped close to 80 kilos. Hey, I think it was plus 35 kilos each.
Yep.
So yeah, you see that in person and it's undeniable. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about those 2 guys is they had both tried many other routes to get there and have failed in the past. Like Josh Weir in specific, which you would know, being the co-coach, he listed out things I hadn't even heard of, like the Max's Challenge, where they buy creatine and glutamine and nighttime protein, day protein, post-workout protein. He's like, it's a supplement selling scheme. I was like, I wasn't really aware of that Max's Challenge. He tried that. He tried OptiFast. He'd done keto, fasting, boot camps, in-person PT, had a pretty bad experience with that, paid for 12 sessions, and the guy rocked up to none.
Never showed up. Yeah, never showed
Tried
up.
to give him like a template meal plan, which is unfortunate. And Mubasher had tried a lot of things as well, and just had said to himself, well, maybe I'm just meant to be fat. Similar dialogue to yourself. Mm-hmm. You tried a lot of things in the past. Do I need to do steroids, whatever? And then obviously Mubasher had seen Suki's ad and seen that Suki, Indian, they were relating because they're both Indian fellas, that Suki had done it. Then he saw my ad, then he came into my inbox, started talking to me. I voice noted him at the time and said, hey mate, it is me, having a chat with you. And then same thing, the guarantee, both of them mentioned that the fact that in contract, we have a guarantee that you'll lose 10 kilos if you follow the system or you won't pay. And both of these guys were great at following the system. I mean, Josh Weir, he told me he lost 13 kilos in the first, was it 7 weeks or 8 weeks?
Yeah, it was certainly less than 12.
Insane.
Less than 12.
And we'll get into this topic in a minute. Mm-hmm. This is the main thing I say to a lot of guys when they first onboard with me is compliance is the science. If you can stick to the plan that I give you and that I create for you, you will succeed. It's maths, it's science. It's calories in, calories out. I do all the formulas on the individual call based on your muscle mass, your age, where your metabolic baseline is, and how many kilos of fat you want to lose in a week for what timeline and how much you've got. It's all mathematical, and then the first fortnight, as you know, we test that. Mm-hmm. And if it's off a little bit, if it's too much, great, we feed you more. If it's under, great, we bring your calories down or we increase your step count.
Yep.
Right? Or we smack them back in line and say, mate, 70% adherence is not quite enough. 70% adherence is, this is the kind of stuff that gets you fat in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see both those guys come in after having tried absolutely everything, online options, the ketos, the fasting, the man shakes, all the stuff that's kind of short term, and get that result. So not that this is a sales-based podcast, but that's why you closed so well yesterday.
Yeah, but off the back of that, I am openly, willing to say and look down the barrel of the camera and say that in my mind, we're the best within the industry for what it is that guys are after and what it is that they need. We're hands down. I mean, if you want to achieve a 35, 36 kilo transformation and then learn to keep the weight off, those are words that Mubasher said to me. He goes, I believe that I can now keep this off, and now I'm going on to bigger and better things. For a guy who's in his, 30s, 40s?
He's mid-30s, Mubasher.
Mid-30s.
35, yep.
Those were his words. So it's not just me or you or, Mike sitting here and saying that this is why we're better. Go listen to our clients. That's why they're all over your social media.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's the saying. The proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
I've got the result, 37, 47. I'll still fucking look like this, I promise you. 57, maybe not, but we'll see. And then, there's just too many different variations of results through different walks of life, different age groups, different, what would you call it? Nationalities, religious backgrounds, professions that all have the result because it's a system that we customize to the individual. And that's the biggest difference. But again, the system can be fucking fantastic, right? And we can have the best, protein intake per day, the best micronutrient-based foods, the best calorie deficit, the best fucking training plan to put on muscle as a natural. But if you don't follow it, it doesn't fucking matter how good the plan is because you're not following it. So that's where Eman's like looking at this camera going, yeah, fuck. and I mean, that's part of the reason why we're doing this podcast is to speak some fucking truth around what it actually takes to look good in your mid-30s, your 40s, your 50s. And then on the other spectrum, we get some fantastic clients that have amazing results. Like Craig Glindeman is a great example, guy that is worth who knows how much money. This guy, busy, traveling all the time, is, self-accountable, self-responsible, understands, hey, these guys have developed this incredible fucking system that clearly works. If I can stick to it, I'm going to get the result. And when he doesn't stick to it, he takes responsibility for that and goes, hey, mate, look, I've got 90%. Let's run it back this week and let's just see what happens.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. So anyway, let's get into the major topic of that, which is the truth of what it takes to succeed. So we have two different people. We have Joe, who is more involved in the gatekeeping side at the MPT rebuilds, who kind of deals with people that are kind of interested. And some guys are completely sold already. They've watched the socials. They've seen Suki. They've seen Eman. They've seen my results. They've seen Matty Ward's. They've seen Kingies. They've seen all these guys that we're filmed with. And they're ready to go. And it's just a really easy conversation for you. Or there's other guys who have just seen my ad. They haven't done any research on us or any sort of experience. And they come on and they give you a bit of a hard time, right? So we'll get into that in a moment. And then we've got Eman, who's head coach, co-coach, who works with me alongside well, me and him work together to help, coach these guys and hold them accountable and, build a relationship, answer different questions and really help some of these guys get over some psychological barriers. Definitely. Some of them are very easy. They come in, they go, right, I'll trust the process. I understand. This system is proven. You guys both have the result. There's fucking literally hundreds of clients that have come through and gotten a great result. Mm-hmm. If I just surrender that to that and trust that process, I will get there. And then there's others who become, oh, look, yeah, when motivation's talking, look, I'm in, I'm keen, whatever. First check-in we do, adherence, 70%. Oh, what happened? Oh, look, Nonna's spaghetti was there and it'd be rude for me not to eat. Or, the kids left some food on the plate and, I just couldn't let it go. It's a waste. Or I just had to have your favourite Krispy Kreme donuts because I was at my 10-year-old kid's birthday celebration and they were there and I just couldn't help myself. So we're going to go into both realms. Cool. Who wants to go first? Because I'm going to pepper you guys to...
Too much already.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Okay, so let's go with you. Let's just open the floor. So what do you think is the difference between someone like yourself? Because when you first come to me, you had tried everything under the sun, right? All of it. You've done study, you've done different coaches, you tried different things. You come to me, you said, you know what, this fucking guy knows what he's doing. I'll surrender to it. You lost, what was it in total? What was your heaviest weight that you were before you joined us?
114, and then I went to 84 twice.
And then what was your lowest when you were fucking 6%? And people were in the gym were like, are you competing? When did you show?
76.
76, yeah. So you could potentially say that in total you lost nearly 40.
Almost 40.
40 kilos.
Yeah. Pure body fat.
Yeah. So what do you think the difference is between people like you that come in and just surrender the process, I'll let Mike tell me what to do and I'll fucking do it?
Yep.
You, Suki, Kingy, how many are there? There's Joel, there's Matty Ward, I don't need to name him. There's Jason. Who else have we filmed with? There's so many. And, we're only filming with a certain bunch too. There's another big bunch that have got it as well. So what do you think as the co-coach now who's had, 8 months experience now coaching, the difference between those that fail miserably and then try and point externally and those that actually get the result and take ownership? What's the difference?
Look, there's a lot of factors that contribute to it, but if I had to sum it up into one quality, it's honestly mindset, man. It's how much you want it and why you want it. And how much of a priority it is for you, basically. A lot of people say they want it, and then, when push comes to shove, again, they're just relying on their old habits, relying on, I guess, their externals, what they've been brought up to, what they're used to, and then they justify it, right? This, I guess, justification of, oh, well, like you said, it was my daughter's birthday, and I just had to have a slice of cake. I couldn't say no to the kid. I was like, well, actually, you can. You can show them that you have discipline and daddy's doing something important right now.
Yeah, you're the fucking parent, right? Not
yeah,
the kid.
Yeah, exactly right. So I think the ability to look yourself in the mirror and tell the truth and go, how much did I actually give to myself today, and how much did I, what excuses did I make, and what was actually unavoidable. That's the simplest way I can describe it. Of when push comes to shove, are you making the best choices you actually can, or are you relying on those old habits and just what to get you through? A great example is a client that weekly, I'm not going to name any names, but
please don't.
But basically every week we have the same conversation of, hey mate, what'd you do this week? How compliant were you? Oh, 90%. Okay, what was the 10%? Oh, well, I didn't have any lunch on me, so I got a sausage roll from the duck shop or wherever I was. It's like, well, mate, there's definitely better options out there.
Yeah.
And we've gone through these options. It's not just like you're not in your first 12 weeks either. You're in your, I think, third set, your third set of 12. So you're somewhere in that 36-week mark. Dude, you should know better right now.
Yeah, I mean, those kind of excuses are just unacceptable.
Just to push back on that for a second, though, because I think there's plenty of guys out there who would be looking at it to play devil's advocate, maybe. What would you say to the guy who goes, that's too extreme? Hey, it's my daughter's birthday. I want to have a piece of cake. That's a very extreme mindset that you've got. I can't have a piece of cake on the one day a year that's my daughter's birthday.
I love that. I love that, man, because that's something that I love to give you the option, then you can weigh it up. So I tell these guys the truth, right? I go, look, you can have a piece of cake, but what that's going to do to you is actually it's going to stop your momentum. So people don't understand the power of momentum and the power of, I guess, the compound effect, like we talk about. We get all these guys, we try to get all these guys to listen to a book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. That's right. Which basically the more that you keep going, the more that you stay compliant to what we've discussed, the better the results are going to be. Now, there is a very real thing that where if you interrupt that process, guess what? You're going to slow that momentum down, and then your rate of loss isn't going to be as good, and you got to build that momentum back up, right? And it could be as simple as a slice of cake, because what happens is the body freaks out that, you know, you're having something different, you're having something that's high in sugar, high in fat, something that's really not used to, something with a whole bunch of, you know, processed shit in it as well, probably not good for you. Hey, guess what? You've been optimized for X amount of weeks. You've been eating nothing but whole foods. Guess what? This is going to freak the body out. You're going to retain some water weight, and it's going to slow your momentum, and we're going to have to build back up from there, right? So it may affect your results. It may affect how big your drop is. It may affect your momentum going forward. Calorie in versus calorie out. Absolutely. We can make some adjustments, man. No worries. And that's where I tell people to lean on me in terms of, hey, let me know what's going on in your life. I'm going to help you tiptoe this line between lifestyle balance that we talk about and getting the result. But I'm always going to be honest with you about what that might actually do to your results. And it's up to you to decide what's more important. A slice of cake, one slice of cake right now in the period where you're trying to build something really important, or your result. Because guess what? Once you get the result, that balance is so much more, you know, so much easier to have, and so much, you know, you have so much more variety. We've built up your calories. You've got the physique. It's a snowball effect that I talk about with all these guys, right? Yeah. When you're in the starting phases of what we do, you're basically a snowball rolling down a hill. The more momentum you can build up, you collect snow, and then you get bigger and bigger, and then you're an avalanche. At that point, if you hit any rocks, you're plowing right through that. You know, your momentum carries you. But if you hit a large enough rock in those early stages, guess what? You're breaking apart. You have to restart from scratch.
Cost yourself a week, yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, man. Like, starting with the end goal in mind, like, we are trying to rebuild someone's metabolism, and doing that stuff slows it down.
Yeah.
You know, like, once you've got the result, you can have a fucking slice of cake. I can eat the whole cake. You know, I can drink, eat, and do whatever I want, and I can still stay 10% relatively easily, you know, by intuitively eating. You admitted yesterday to the client, you said, look, I probably shouldn't say this, but I don't track calories. You know, you don't have to. Once you've done a rebuild and you've got enough muscle, your metabolism's processing food well, and you are leaning into making good decisions anyway, you don't need to track calories. No. And that's the thing that I try to get across to the clients from the word go, is it's like, look, a rebuild is not a weight loss program. Anybody can be in a calorie fucking deficit and lose weight. But the issue is, a lot of the guys that we work with, they've got 25, 30, 35, 40, 50. I've had guys with 80 kilos of body fat on a scan. You don't have a calorie deficit big enough to lose that, because there's 7,700 calories or units of energy in a kilo of stored fat. It's a fair bit. So for you to lose 50 kilos, a lot of people don't have the metabolic capacity to lose that amount. So the three main goals in a rebuild, to harp on this again, which we do on every podcast, and I do 2 times a day, 6 days a week, is 1, to lose fat, 2, to build muscle. Why? Because it's anti-aging's best friend. Look at anyone in Hollywood or walking around, if you know them. Typically in Australia, you don't, because most people don't age well in this country because they're all alcoholics. Is Hugh Jackman, right? Ryan Reynolds, The Rock is an extreme example. We all talk about him. Mark Wahlberg, he's actually in Australia at the moment filming. They've all got a decent amount of muscle, and these guys are all 50 plus. They look fantastic. Most guys would like to look like that in their 50s and 60s. And number 3 is to optimize your metabolism. So for us to lose fat, build muscle, and optimize the metabolism in the process during a rebuild intensive, things like a slice of cake are a big deal. Yeah. Whereas when you've already been rebuilt, like the 3 of us here, a slice of cake doesn't fucking matter. You know, it doesn't at all. But to get there, you've got to sacrifice that. And you've got to be what I call like robotic. You know, these guys are robots, these guys that get the best results. Matty Ward, Suki, yourself, Mubasha. Mubasha's been fantastic. Josh Weir, you said you've been sick in a few things and had a few things happen. Kingy, right? They're robotically adherent, and that's why they're able to rebuild, which again is to lose fat, build muscle, optimize their metabolism, so that maintaining that result is quite easy. And then you can have your fucking cake and eat it too. And that's the biggest difference between what we're doing in this rebuild intensive, where Mike has to speak to everybody, and Eman or CJ or the other, you know, co-coaches that are coming up in the group. You know, we need to kind of pull you guys back in line, because the context is we want to lose fat, build muscle, and fix your metabolism so that the result is very easy to sustain, which it is for the 3 of us. Right?
There's another point which you bring up a few times as well, which is like, how long did it take you to actually get to this physique? Right? Yeah. 10 years, 20 years, however long it took. If you can be militant, if you can be compliant, 6 to 9 months. 6 to 9 months of your life, and you will be in the shape that I was. You know,
Yeah.
put B-roll of my result, my rebuild result, right? The most frequent one where I got to single digit body fat. That was 6 months of dedicated compliance, not a calorie unaccounted for, nothing off the meal plan, just following it very, very strict.
Yep.
No cheats on weekends, no asking Mike for adjustments, just being like, cool, I'm just gonna eat this, you know, every day, do my training, dial in.
Yep.
And, you know, I went from, I think my scan on that second rebuild that we did was something like 20-something% down to 7% body fat in 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. And look on the more extreme of guys that have kids and stressful businesses and a bit older, because you're, 30, just turned, dudes that are 40, 45, 50, it's 12 months at the longest, typically. I mean, Mubasha was 14 months, but we have been rebuilding his calories. We've been reverse dieting when we filmed because I wanted to fill him out and the rest of it. Josh told me he's been 12 months, but he also admittedly said there was a month there where I got COVID, then I got what else did he get? He got influenza.
Yeah, he gets sick all the time.
Then his kids got sick, so I was like, mate, look, it's probably been about 10 months.
Yeah.
So like you're saying, 12 months of laser focused dedication, sacrifice, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's not sacrificing, you're just getting rid of old shitty bullshit standards and habits that the masses have, and the masses are, fat, miserable, broken, depressed. So do you want to behave like them? Sure, then that's how you're going to end up. Topic for another day.
And to think too, like that result that I got, that was, like we said, bodybuilding comp ready, right? Not 10%, which is a great walk around weight. That probably would have been closer to 4 or 5 months.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. And it's amazing. The more adherent you can be, the quicker it is. Yeah. And that's the hard part. Everybody wants the fastest result they can in our 12-week, intro offer, but then they don't want to be, adherent. And it's like, well, mate, which way do you want,
Well, that a good example of it, which is something that like I experienced firsthand yesterday. Obviously, I'm on the other side of things. I'm not necessarily speaking with these guys all the time, but I rocked up to the gym, 10, 15 minutes early yesterday, and I was speaking to Mubasha, the client that we were filming with, and he was running me through all the things that he'd tried in the past and just how much output he was putting into, doing boot camps or cardio style classes, which he hated. He admittedly said, I don't even enjoy them. And then he said, 7-8 weeks into the program, or maybe longer than that, I can't remember how long exactly, he was getting to a point where you guys had to increase his calories because he was losing body fat too rapidly, which for him was blowing his mind. He goes, I'm enjoying the food that I'm eating. I'm looking forward to going to the gym every single day. I like the process. And Mike has told me that I need to eat more food. Otherwise, I'm going to drop body fat off too quickly. And that is, it's incredible for someone like him who struggled with his weight to get to a point where he's getting that kind of result. And then reverse dieting. He's been reverse dieting for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah,
and we've been increasing his calories and he dropped weight off. He's
lost more. You did that too.
That's what a rebuild gets you to. And I think for a lot of guys, that's very hard to believe because their experience has been completely different to that. And it's obviously our job, the why we're speaking on this podcast today, to get that point across and show guys that it's actually possible.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, same thing with me. All right, like I was scared when you told me to increase calories. I was like, bro, I'm gonna blow up, Mike. I don't think you understand. It's my metabolism, man. It's my genetics. I'm different. Sure enough, trust the process is the only thing I hadn't tried. I was like, okay, I'm gonna shut up now.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I mean that's why we call it a rebuild, because we are doing 3 things. There's 3 major things at play: fat loss, muscle building, and optimizing your metabolism. And it's the only way that it works. There's no other things you can do. You can't go into a calorie deficit, eating all the foods that you want. You can't go on a Ozempic, Duramind, boot camps, cut out a food group, keto, fasting, 10,000 steps. I get these simps on my ads all the time saying, eat less, move more. I'm like, no fucking shit. Like it's like saying to get better at swimming, just get in the water. Okay, now what do? I'm in the water, I'm wet. Now teach me to swim. There's a bit more to it than just that. So it's interesting. And, going back into the sales process of what we do, sometimes it's difficult for these guys to understand that we're not a 12-week program. We're a fucking rebuild, mate. We're going to be able to do those 3 results, which is lose fat, build muscle, and heal your metabolism so that the result is sustainable for you. And there's no other way I can do that other than leading by example myself. I'm 37 shortly. I mean, I can promise you I'll look like this in 10 years. All I can say is I'll promise you. And we're doing it naturally as well. We're not getting our clients on TRT or to jump on Duramind or Ozempic or Glenbuterol or any of these kind of injectable or, orally takeable, what would you call them? enhancements. So it's realistic, it's sustainable. You can be a good dad, you can be a good role model, and you can still be a good business owner, like we've got a lot of these guys. And, be around 10, 15% healthy, health biomarkers optimized, and just live life how you're fucking meant to. You don't have to go like this at 30, despite the Australian populace. You don't have to do it. It's actually quite simple.
One thing I say to guys all the time is the first 2 weeks are the hardest it's ever going to be. If you can just stick it out for 14 days, I promise you, this is the hardest it ever has to be. And the people that get through the first 7 days usually find, hey man, I was hungry in the first week. By week 2, I'm good. And then from there, it's like, great, we can start building your calories. We can build it out. And this is what I tell people that have less than sort of 90% compliance or 95%. It's like, dude, the more compliant that you can be, the more that we can build your calories. And it's going to be the difference between you getting a good result at the end of this and getting, the minimum 10, if not 12, 15 kilos muscle on top of that and doubling your meal plan, like the calories that we've got you on, versus the guys who just get through the 10 weeks, barely get the 10, and their meal plan's exactly the same as what they started. So which one do you want?
Off the back of the original question that you asked Eman, what's the difference between the guys who have success and don't? All those guys that you listed, Kingy, Suki, even the guys that we filmed yesterday, all of them had tried a lot of things up until this point. So I think when they are submitting to that process, a part of it is the fact that they're just like, what else am I going to do other than surgery and then maybe some sort of oral drug that you don't want to take? So I think for a lot of guys, don't let it get to that stage. Don't let it get to the point where you've tried a million different things. You've spent money over 10 or 15 years to try and drop the weight off. Actually learn the process it's going to take to get you to that end goal. Work with a coach who knows what they're doing. Work with a coach who's got the results, us, and then every other client as well. Because you don't need to go through that 5-10 years of pain that those clients had gone through. Just do it properly the first time.
Yeah, just come to us and skip the fucking bullshit.
Success leaves clues, right?
Well, so does failure, though. That's what I say.
Correct.
Like the saying I listened to, I think it was 12 years ago, I joined a network marketing company. Yes, a pyramid scheme for you fuckers that are retarded. And there was a dude that was making $1 million a month selling coffee. Wow. Right? And he got up and spoke at this thing, and it was on YouTube, and I was listening to it. And he goes, I've got a saying. He goes, I observe the masses and I do the opposite. And I'm like, fuck me, that makes sense, because 99% of people fail. They're fat, they're broke, they're married to the wrong person, they're miserable, and they end up just like tiptoeing through life to arrive safely at death. It's like, it's so depressing. There's so much more an option. And it's the same thing, isn't it? Like, it's these guys, like a poor man, Ryan Thomas said it perfectly, didn't he? One of our clients that we filmed with, who was 41 at the time and got down to 8% body fat. He goes, the poor man pays twice. He's
Which
like,
he had.
yeah. And, openly he said, you were priced higher than what I wanted to pay. But it doesn't matter what I wanted to pay. This is what I needed to pay to get the information that I needed to get the fucking coaching, the guidance, the knowledge, and to get the result, and, to walk the walk.
Yeah.
So, and just on that too, for anyone who's unsure of how we work, I put it back on you a lot of the time when I'm checking in with you guys. So I will always tell you the result. I'll always tell you what's going to happen if you do what you want to do. I'll always tell you, why you shouldn't be drinking. And I use this example. I had this client who's going overseas for a work trip, right? And basically he's like, I'm probably going to have a few drinks. I said, do you have to have a few drinks? Like, yeah, I'm going to be with the clients. Like, so why do you have to have a drink? He had no answer for me. He's like, you know what clients are like? I'm like, I do. Absolutely. I understand what clients are like, but let me tell you, are they forcing you to guzzle alcohol? No? Cool. Well, then I don't think you have to have a drink. Right. And it's just that mindset that I guess for some people that, man, you really don't have to do anything. Like, it's what do you want to do? How important's your goal? And I understand there's a social aspect, especially to some jobs for sure. But getting on the piss, definitely not something that, it's really not conducive to results.
No, and I'd almost argue that there's the opposite effect of that. And someone that I look up to and I watch a lot of his podcasts is Andy Frisella. And he talks about this point where if you're in that social setting where you're working with a client and someone goes, hey, we're getting a drink, do you want something? You just go, hey, man, I'm not drinking today.
Yeah.
And you say that shows a level of confidence. I know who I am. This is what I want to do. And if they go, oh, do you not drink? You go, no, I drink. I'm just not drinking today.
Yeah.
That within itself shows that I'm dedicated to something and I'm committing to something. These are my personal values and beliefs.
Yeah.
And that translates into business 100%. And I think a lot of guys, you might cop some flack for that. Oh, mate, come on, it's just one drink. You go, no, it's all right, man.
Yeah.
I'm not drinking today.
It's doubling down your commitment, right?
Yeah.
They respect you so much more for it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're in a setting where, you are with clients and it is maybe the appropriate thing to do to schmooze, you go, hey, look, I don't mind if you have a drink. I'm going to get a soda water. That's fine. I'm just not drinking today.
Yeah.
There's a lot of respect that can be won in that setting, especially in a business sense. I would argue the complete opposite
100%.
within that scenario. Yeah,
I completely
100%.
agree with you.
We're talking about alcohol.
We're talking about how you don't have to do anything, right? Like I was talking about a client that has come to me and said, look, I'm going to go overseas for a business trip. I've got a drink. So what do I do? And I said, do you have to drink?
Yeah.
Because I was telling people basically how I put the choice back on them. I'll tell you the information. I'll tell you that, two standard drinks takes about 4 days to get out of your body and for you to recover from.
Yeah.
Right. So the more alcohol that you have, the worse it's going to be because everything's systemic. You can only recover, you can only recover so much before you start eating into your other systems in terms of dropping body fat and building muscle mass.
We're just on that. Alcohol slows down fat oxidation, which is fat burning, fancy way of saying that, and protein synthesis, which is muscle building. To what percent, we don't know. It's genetic. It depends on what you drink, how you drink, what you do afterwards. Do you have fruit and super greens and electrolytes before you go to bed? How well do you sleep? Where's your testosterone at? We don't have the percentage clear on data yet, but it does retard both of those, fat burning and muscle building. So you can drink, but you're going to intentionally stall your progress.
Correct.
And again, once you've been rebuilt, you can drink as much as you fucking like. I've probably had more drinks in the last 6 months than I've had in my entire life, and I'm arguably in better shape than I've ever been in because I've already done the hard yards. I've already built the muscle. I've already optimized the metabolism, and I've already, enjoyed and fallen in love with the process of eating steak, eating the kiwi, doing all the stuff that we talk about, eating good foods. So what you need to do to rebuild and get that result is different to what you are required to do to maintain it.
Definitely.
But back to what you're saying, choice.
It's a piece of cake analogy again.
Have your cake and eat it too.
Well, the same as, having a piece of cake on your daughter's birthday.
Well,
It's the
do
same
it-
as alcohol,
Yeah, do it after you're rebuilt.
Yeah.
Do it after you these decisions of, one bit of cake and I have to drink when I'm overseas. These are the decisions and these are the choices that lead you into being a fat cunt in the first place.
Yeah.
That's what gets you there.
I just
So if you keep doing it and justifying it, guess what? What's the definition of insanity that Einstein says?
Yeah.
Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Well, and the reason I put it back on people as well, and I go, look, this is your choice. You have to make it. This is the path that you have to walk down, right? Because there's two things that come from that. One, you're going to do it and you're going to feel shit about it. And that's what I like to call a teachable moment. The flip side to that is, mate, you got to look yourself in the mirror and actually go, I have to justify this action and realize that I'm choosing to do what's not good for me. And my coach has told me why this is bad for me and how much this is going to actually push me back. Yeah. Look at, and also too, the more that we go on, depending on the result we've gotten so far, the harsher I can get sometimes because it's like, dude, you are, X amount of weeks in, you've only dropped this amount of weight. You've not really built that much muscle. What are you doing? Like, once, twice, 3 times a lady, it's like, come on, man. You just like check yourself before you wreck yourself, basically.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because then these are the same people that get frustrated that they haven't lost more fat in that period of time, despite their own decisions being the reasons why they haven't.
Well, and it goes back to like what we said in a previous podcast. Watch them all. They're full of great information. Drive Time You. Listen to people who are more successful than you, and all of them say the same fucking thing. Check in with yourself. Like, be real with yourself, right? And I think as well with any sort of result, especially something like this, there's got to come a point where you're sick and tired of being fucking sick and tired. There's got to be a point where you're just fed up with yourself and your own efforts and going, you know what? I want this result that I've put on a pedestal. Am I doing enough to actually achieve that? And the answer is no. Smack yourself in line and do something about it. Do something different. Do something that you haven't done before. Otherwise, I'd be questioning, how much do you really want it?
Yeah, it's interesting too because the expectation of what some of these guys think that guys like me and you and Joe do to actually look like this, it's not actually reality. Because a lot of the guys that we work with are 35 plus, so they're brought up on the Rocky movies, and they think that they've got to chop wood and go for runs and do all this crazy stuff and put their whole life on hold. Like, just so you guys know, the average amount of training time for our clients is 4 to 5 times a week for an hour. If you claim you can't find that, you're lying. Like, that's garbage. The Rock can find that, and that guy's got 6 companies, highest paid actor in Hollywood. Like, you can find 5 fucking hours a week. Don't bullshit me. Get off your phone. I promise you. Show me your phone. I promise you're scrolling through stuff more than 5 hours a week. So that side's easy. The training side's easy. We don't give our clients a step count. Nope. We don't give them any cardio until we need to last minute if they really want to get down, but we don't give them cardio. And most of our clients will eat 4 meals a day. 2 of them are usually solid, and 2 of them are usually convenient, snack-based or shakes. We can throw in some snacks in between if you're a snacker and you've got feminine ways. We'll throw that in, but that's it. It's very, very simple. It's the science, it's the numbers, and it's all built around how much lean body mass you have, which is muscle mass and bone, how much fat you have, what your timeline is, and the goals, and where you're at, how much you sleep, how many hours a night you're sleeping, your stress levels, your alcohol consumption. It's all a big formula that we've created. I've been in the fitness industry for, how old am I now? 37. What's the date?
24th August.
7 days from that. Is that the second?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less.
So I'm 37 within a week, and I've been at this since 14. Before it was cool. Before C-Bum and all these people that you all want to suck their ass, right? I was in this industry before it was cool. I've done the work. I know exactly what the formula is. You just have to follow it. And it's, I guess, from the outside looking in, if you're listening to us for the first time, it's not as hard as you think. It's simple. We say this right. It's simple, but it's not easy. And the reason that it's not easy is because you have to get over your old excuses, your old standards, your old identity of who you are as a man and the choices that you make and the habits that you have. But the process itself is actually really simple. All of the guys that we've filmed with, which is about 15 now, I think, in total, have all said that it was easier than what they thought. It's better than what they expected. They couldn't believe that they're getting ice cream options, muesli bar options, toast options, chocolate options, chip options. You give them fucking popcorn. You give them all kinds of these different options.
Snack king, baby.
The snack king over here, and still losing weight. So sometimes I think people coming in with the expectation of what it actually takes to look like this is very different in reality to what it does. And that's where social media has kind of fucked up a lot of people.
The reality of what you're saying, it doesn't sell because it's not sexy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing the work doesn't sell. A macro split that's got this and that, and it's got these nice fancy meals, and you got 100 different options. As we're aware, that's what sells.
Well, that's the thing.
It doesn't work.
No. I mean, I know. Yeah, it's interesting, and people are buying sometimes to support somebody because they like their brand, and they like the fact that they're funny. It's like, well, the guy can be funny, but if he can't deliver you the result that you want, like, you're just wasting money.
And what we mean by the result is a long-term transformation, because you can do a 12-week challenge or an 8-week challenge and you can drop 10, 15 kilos of body fat, but where are you 12 months later?
Yeah.
That's what, on all these calls I'm doing with these guys, I'm asking them a question. Yes, we can get you in shape in the next 3 months. Where do you want to be a year down the track? And if you can stretch your brain, where do you want to be 5 years down the track?
Yeah.
Because if you can ask yourself that long-term question, fundamentally, you're going to start to do things within your lifestyle that are actually sustainable. Because if you can't see yourself sticking to a program or a meal plan for longer than 6 to 12 months, why would you expect to be able to maintain the result?
Yeah.
Well, this is my thing as someone who's been through it and has completely changed myself from start to finish in terms of why I can keep what you've taught me and how I've rewired my brain from my old identity and my upbringing, an ethnic background where food is at the center of everything, and also having a pretty, I'll call it depressing past, I guess, where I use food as a Band-Aid, right? All these mechanisms that I had, that food was my, like, I was very anchored to food, and it's still a battle that I go through from time to time. Don't get me wrong, but the way that I've changed that, man, is by having routine and rhythm. And people don't understand that your routine and rhythm is individual to you, and that's what we help you build.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, there's some trade-offs there at the start, absolutely, to get you, the most of what we can with the amount of calories we have to start you on. But as we build this thing up, man, the sky's the limit in terms of what we can put in there and what is going to be real to you. But the moment that you stop having a routine, something that you can plug into, something that you can go into, that's where you're going to fuck up, because now you're not counting calories. Now you're not counting anything. You're going based off feeling, right? And feeling's the worst enemy of somebody who is really maybe not addicted to food, but has cravings or really enjoys their food, right? Because now all of a sudden you're like, oh, this sausage roll looks all right. Oh, this looks okay. That looks okay. The other flip side of that is everything that we eat nowadays is everything that you can get out is so processed. So many calories, so many additives, so much bullshit. If you don't have a routine, if you don't have something to plug into, something that you do every day, guess what? You're going off track, and very quickly that weight's going to creep up, especially if you're not even, if you're not even weighing yourself weekly. Like, what are you doing, man?
Like, how are you keeping track of how your, how your physique's tracking and what's happening? Because guess what? I guarantee you, if you're waiting for the mirror to tell you, you're going to be 5-10 kegs up before you even know it.
Yeah.
Right. Very small things. Weigh yourself once a week. See how you're going. Check in with yourself, and then have a routine that you can plug into, because guess what? Yeah, maybe when you've built the, the metabolism, you got to this point, you don't have to be 100% compliant. But if you've got a routine that you follow 90% of the time, you're probably going to keep your result.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why with the onboarding calls, the original game plan calls I do with all clients, I say, look, I don't give you 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 options for lunch like a lot of our competitors will, because I know that if you're stressed or late or unorganized, or if you're able to justify and go back into your old identity and mindset, you'll take the 7th option, which is Macca's, on the way home, because you fucking forgot your lunch and you were stressed. Whereas if you can come in and, like you said earlier, surrender and trust the process and just eat the food that's given to you and have that mindset that Ryan's spoken about, that Maddie's spoken about, that Phil's spoken about, Kingy, Suki, Eman, Mulbasha and Josh yesterday, of if it's not on my plan, it doesn't go in my mouth. If you can lock into that motto and that affirmation, especially while you're rebuilding, once you rebuild, sure, you can have balance as we discussed, but while you're rebuilding, if it's not on my plan, it doesn't go in my mouth, that becomes like an addiction that these guys start to get into. And like you said, if they can get through week 1, week 2, they get the best result. As we know, if somebody gets to the first fortnight, 100%, I'm loving it, this is great, bit of food cravings, mate, but I'm a bit hungry, great, 100 calories, excellent. We know they're going to be like a success client.
Yeah.
Right? Justin with an A on the end, right? What did he lose? It was 20 in 12 weeks?
Yeah.
20 Why?
And 12.
Because adherent.
Yep.
You and I can pick it. First fortnight, look, I'm 80%. I had to have insert excuse. We know this guy's not going to get the rebuild done. We know it straight away. Because the first 2 weeks, they're coming in, they've paid a bit of money to be with us. They've had the call with me. They've had the intro with you. They've done a new training program. They're around it all. If you can't get out of your own way in that first 2 weeks, we know that you're in trouble. But if you can for the first 2, you can do it 3. Then 3, you go to a month, and then a month down, you're 8 kilos down, 10 kilos down. They're like, fuck, imagine if I do this for 3 months, I'll be ripped in 3 months.
Yeah.
And then we continue on. It's that snowball effect.
Yeah.
That you talk about.
One thing I'll say to you guys as well, just a piece of advice for everyone, is don't be a fucking baby. Like, the one thing that really grinds my gears sometimes is people looking for variety, right? Hey mate, I'm getting sick of chicken every day. I'm getting sick of steak every day. I'm getting sick of these things. And I offer them some form of alternative, and like, yeah, you got anything else? It's like, dude, you can flavor your stuff so many different ways to make it taste different every day, right? Just plug in and find a way to make it exciting for you, right? And not to mention, I will give you ways to change it up. But if we change too much, guess what? That's too much of a stimulus change. And it's really unpredictable how your body's going to respond to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And there'll be a day where you can have more flavors and more options and eat a little bit more how you want to eat. But again, until you're rebuilt, mate, suck it up and follow the fucking process. Yeah. Or keep doing what you're doing, because these excuses of, I want more flavor, I want more variety, that's what's got you to 30% body fat. Like, how else do you say that?
Yeah.
I guess we've touched a bit on the difference between why some guys come through and they get their rebuild done, and then they're able to leave us and maintain that result into their 40s, 50s, 60s, and then why others don't. So we've gone through the mindset of that. And the biggest thing I see the difference with people that succeed in a rebuild and losing 20 or 10, 20, 30 kilos of body fat versus the ones that don't, it's 2 things. It's identity. It's who you see yourself as a man. Because if you see yourself as someone that's 10%, good standard, strong guy, role model, alpha male of his family, somebody that is the provider, the protector, and what a man is meant to be, despite what the fucking left is explaining to us what we should be. If you come in with that identity and you've got this level of support, you've got this roadmap, you've got this system, the results are proven within 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 18 weeks, whatever, it's very simple. But if you have the standards of somebody that's a little bit more, inclined to being, convinced to have birthday cake and to have 6 drinks, and I'm traveling, so I have to get fucking smashed, then it's going to be an uphill battle for you. So I see it as identity. If you can shift your identity into somebody that you want to be versus who you are, because that identity got you fucking fat in the first place, mate. So if you want to keep being that guy, then you assume the same identity. Switch your identity, who you are. I think that's it. You've got the right system, the right support, etc. Identity's one. The second one, in my opinion, is standards. If you have weak standards and you follow the level of standards that unfortunately most people these days in 2024 and beyond are following, it's going to be very difficult for you. right? And some of the stuff that we talk about inside of our inner circle is who you're listening to, what podcasts you're listening to, what audiobooks you're listening to, what books are you reading, what are you watching on Netflix? You know, how many times have we watched The Last Dance?
Too many.
Obviously, Michael Jordan is, you know, pretty much probably the most successful athlete of all time, in my opinion. I mean, who can you put in here? Federer, but he's been done now by Djokovic. Tiger Woods, but he, you know, got done with womanizing. I mean, MJ's pretty clean. MJ, you know, probably the most competitive guy. I've watched his doco, I'll speak for myself, 23 times at least. Right. And the standards that he had for himself, not that I'm trying to replicate those, but they're very inspiring to me to lift my standards, even if it's just 10%. So the other thing is standards. You know, will you come in with good standards or will you come in with excuse-itis? You know, we call them the master bitchitis. We call them the master justifiers. You know, like how many times have we been on the phone and we've said, hey, mate, you know, what was your weigh in today? How'd you go? And we listened to an 8-minute unraveling of this guy's week and why he had to fucking cheat on his meal plan. You know, somebody with high standards doesn't do that. Or if they do it, they own it and say, you know what, mate, let's go back to the plan. I fucked up last week. I'm going to own that because I've got the right standards. I get it. We'll check in next week. And we get that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
In coaching. So to me, if you guys are listening and you really want the secret to rebuilding and losing 10, 20, 30, 40 kilos of fat and being able to maintain it, it's your identity. It's who you see yourself as a fucking man in 2024. And again, you're being programmed to be weak in this generation, right? We won't go into politics and the rest of it, but you're being programmed to give yourself a pass. One bit of fucking cheesecake won't hurt. I'm going overseas. I have to get hammered, etc. It's the identity and it's the standards that you bring as well. If your standards are weak, you're going to get weak results. If your standards are high, you're going to get high results. You're going to be a high achiever. Those are the two main things that I've seen in my 20 years in this industry.
I think it's so funny as a man, especially. I can't really talk to women, no experience there. But as a man, it's like we've gone from one extreme to the other, right? We've gone from the extreme of like, well, you need to be a man. You can't really talk about anything. You need to be closed off. You need to be just stoic, right? To the other extreme of like, it's okay, it's fine. You know, your feelings matter, which they do to a degree, but your feelings really don't matter when you're chasing something, when you're chasing a result. And one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got was if you can run your life like a business, you're going to be so much more successful and so much further ahead. And in business, there's no real room for emotional decisions because you're going to tank that thing pretty fast, right?
Yeah.
So I think nail on the head there in terms of standards. Like at the end of the day, anchor it back to who do you want to be as a person? Forget social media, forget your friends, forget your family, forget anything else. Who do you want to be? What's your vision of yourself as the perfect man? And what does that look like? And how does that person hold himself accountable? And if you can always have that as your North Star, you're going to keep making progress. And that's the other thing. Progress, not perfection. You're going to slip on the path. Absolutely. It's going to happen, especially because you've got 10, 20, 30, 40 years of conditioning behind you. But if you just constantly go, you know what? Whatever happened, back on, let's go. And just have that North Star, that thing that you aim for. I think probably the third thing to touch on, so you talked about identity standards, have a goal, have something clear in mind. And this is something we try to craft with people is like, man, if you don't know where you want to get to, how are you going to get there?
How are we going to get you there?
Yeah. Like I love the analogy you used of Google Maps, right? Is like, hey, if you type in Google a suburb, sure, it'll get you there somewhere, but is it going to get you exactly to the place you want to be? No. You need a direct location. Drop that pin and go, all right, this is where I want to go. This is the best roadmap to get there. Guess what? There might be a detour sometimes, or there might be some roadwork, so there might be something going on, but you'll be able to get back on track and find your way.
Very nice. Google Maps, destination, where do you want to go? I don't know. Can't get there. Yeah. It's interesting. And like a big part of our my onboarding call with these clients and the game plan call is utilizing pleasure and pain. You know, Tony Robbins talks about this a lot, who's obviously like what do you want to call him, a mindset guru at this point. He's a billionaire, whatever, very successful dude. And he talks about human psychology and those that have a good life and succeed and those versus don't. They know how to manage the difference between pleasure and pain. And just like you said, the pleasure side of what we do is like, hey, what's the goal? Let's talk about this lofty, who do you want to look like? What level of body fat do you want to get? How's that going to feel? How your kid's going to look at you? How's your wife going to look at you now? That's the goal. That's the pleasure, moving towards pleasure. And then what I do, right, to get people to run away from pain is I get them to send me shirtless photos, front, back, and side, in their underwear, to send to me as their coach to get them dug into pain. And I get them to get an in-body, a DEXA, or an Volt scan to show actually how many kilograms of body fat you are carrying and how many kilograms of body fat you are fucking holding. Because if we go back to all you need to do to lose fat is to be in a calorie deficit, what the fuck does that mean? How much fat do you have to lose? What kind of deficit do you need to be in weekly to get to that result in 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, 12 weeks? It's all contextual. And this is the part where people don't understand it. You know, they're all following these guys that have huge social media accounts because they're funny and they wear fucking flamingo coloured shirts, whatever, who are talking about calorie deficits and a bit of chocky won't hurt and a bit of drinks won't hurt. Sure, it won't when you're already rebuilt. But to get there, it's all contextual. Right, so we use pleasure, which is the goal. Like you said, start with the end goal in mind. How do you want to look? How do you want your wife to look at you? Right, how do you want to be as a role model for a lot of our clients who have kids? You know, what kind of example do you want to set for your kids? That's the moving towards pleasure goal, and then escaping from pain is actually getting a lot of these guys to confront them as to how fat they are. And what do we get? You guys are both involved in the chats inside of our group. Oh shit, mate! They send the before pictures in their underwear, front, side, and back. They get their scan. Shit, that was a wake up call. I didn't realize I was this fat. I didn't, I'm ashamed. I feel bad, whatever. And I go, excellent. Our goal is done. Psychologically, our goal is done because now I'm digging you. I'm putting my finger, or stabbing you in the side, or digging you in, punching in the ribs, kind of thing, and bringing forth that pain, because humans will move faster away from pain than they will towards pleasure. Again, to quote Tony Robbins, his quote is that if you're in an open meadow, right, or an open field or an oval, let's use it, Aussie stuff, right, oval, and there's a treasure chest with $1 million worth of gold, and no one's around, you are not going to sprint for your life to that fucking treasure chest because there's no impending danger behind you. You probably get on fucking TikTok and you'll tell you call your mum, you'll do whatever because there's no pain, there's no perceived threat. You're just going to take your time to get towards that pleasure, which is the money. If you're in an open meadow and there's a tiger behind you, right, fear, pain of death, you are going to move as fast as you've ever fucking moved across that fucking meadow to get to the other side to safety. And that's what I tell these guys. I'm like, look, if you're struggling with motivation and what'd you call it earlier? Bitchitis, excuse-itis, your old identity is coming in to self-sabotage you, and you're driving past your favourite rest stop or your favourite petrol station, and that sausage roll and that oat milk and that fucking Kit Kat is calling your name. What I tell you to do is pull up those pictures of you in your jocks with your fucking gut hanging over and your sloppy man tits sitting out. You can't see the old fella. You're looking like a piece of dirt. Pull that up and use that pain to remind you and slap yourself in the face as to why you fucking started. And why you need to not pull into that servo, get that sausage roll, get that Kit Kat, or get that oat milk, because that's the habits that have led you into that pain point that you're currently in. Because it's all good to have this fairy tale goal of I want to look like Mark Wahlberg, I want to look like The Rock. How long have we wanted to look like The Rock, right? It ain't going to fucking happen. This guy maybe because he's 6'4", but not us, 6 foot if we're lucky in the right shoes. It's good to have that airy fairy goal, but that goal is not strong enough to stop you when things get tough. And that's where you need to use pain and pleasure, like Tony Robbins said, to be able to manipulate yourself to get the fucking result that you want and that you deserve.
Well, yeah, and sum that up, man. Life is painful. Do you want the pain of regret or do you want the pain of discipline? Which one do you want?
Well, that's it.
One is a happier life than the other. So,
and just to again play devil's advocate on that, I think a lot of guys would look at that and go, again, extremes. But if you take a look at the extremes as to what it is you're achieving, it doesn't necessarily look like big biceps and veiny and muscular physique. Maybe it's I've got good energy levels throughout the day.
Correct.
I'm waking up in the morning. I'm happy with what I see in the mirror. I've got a better relationship with my partner because I've got some form of a libido. Beyond that, there's stress management. I can actually run around with my kids. That's typically what our clients are looking for.
Yes.
So if you're looking at, maybe any of us here going, well, a Kit Kat's okay because I don't want to look like you guys. Okay, well, fair enough. You might not want to do that. But do you want to be happy in your own skin? Do you want all those things that I've just listed? Because if you do, there's going to be changes that will have to be made.
Well, the funny thing is the vascularity and the big biceps and all that is a byproduct of all the rest.
100%.
And that's what people don't understand is like exactly right to your point is like, oh, well, I don't want to look like that. It's like, no, you don't. But to get all the other things that you want, guess what? You're probably going to end up looking like this anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting too. Like I tell all the guys on my first onboarding game plan call with them. It's like, look, I start every rebuild project with the goal towards 10, whether it's 10 kilos of fat in total, because that's typically healthy, or 10% in under body fat, because that's, where the higher achievers want to go. That's where I start my goal, and I want to get you there. And wherever you decide you're happy, whether it's 15%, 20%, whatever, you can hop off that level, that elevator of success. You don't have to go to 10. You can hop off at level 8. That's fine. But either way, the process and the system to get there is still the same. And then to sustain it, you need to build the calories in the background, which is our third pillar again, referring to our 3 pillars of a rebuild: burn fat, build muscle, and optimize your metabolism. To sustain all that, we need the metabolism optimized in the meantime. And it's so interesting, like going back to you as the gatekeeper and who's running the sales team, that people aren't comparing apples with apples, as the saying goes. They're comparing oranges with apples. And it's tough for us to articulate sometimes why we're not a 12-week program. You're not just going to get a meal plan and a fucking training plan. Like, the rebuild is more than that. And the part that is different is, yes, you want to lose fat, yes, you want to build muscle, but we want to fix your metabolism in the meantime. So that when you finish with us, you're left with the knowledge, the tools, and the metabolic capacity to be able to maintain the result. Whereas if you're doing just a 12-week program with whoever it is, all right, or whatever it is, and they get you on 1,800 calories, let's just say, you're training 5 or 6 times a week in a means that you're not enjoying, which you can't sustain. You're being held accountable, you're being pushed, you get the result, you lose the 10 kilos. But when you're finished, you can't wait to go back to eating normally. Or you can't wait to stop the boot camp. Or you can't wait to stop this fucker's program because you fucking hate it. The minute you do that, you put all the weight back on. Because you haven't actually healed the metabolism and optimized the metabolism and embedded the process into your lifestyle.
Just one point on that as well. I often tell this to my clients is, especially the ones that have done other things, is how many times have you been through a program where you're actually eating more week to week?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah? I'm like, never.
Correct.
And that's the thing is we're gonna get you to a better endpoint than any of these other places will, because we're not starting you on a calorie deficit, waiting for that to run out until your rate of loss slows down, and then getting you into more of a deficit. We're actually building your metabolism week by week by week, if you can stay compliant, obviously, and that's going to leave you in the best position when you finish up, man.
Correct. And the only way that you can pick that calorie deficit is not through using someone's fucking automated app. It's by reading their scan.
ChatGPT.
No. Or, all these apps that these guys have developed, like, I could spit some shit here that's going to put a lot of the competition in trouble, but I won't. The hundreds of thousands of dollars these guys are spending in software to be able to automate this and push out generic kind of stuff. But the only way you can actually do it is to have a consult with a client, see how much lean body mass they have, which is how much muscle mass they're carrying and how much bone density. That together is your lean body mass. Their age, their lifestyle habits, how much fat they have to lose, where their basal metabolic rate is, which the scans will give you a rough idea, and then testing that for a 2-week period, and then holding that person accountable to follow that and test that, and then adjusting from there. Anything else is trivia.
Yeah.
I promise you. Okay, it doesn't matter whether the app looks good and they've got more exercise substitutes than us, or whether they've got 6 fucking options for you to have for lunch with different flavors. That isn't going to get you the rebuild result. And to go back to what the rebuild result is, it's to lose all the body fat that you want to lose in a manner that's sustainable. It's to build muscle naturally without throwing in any Ozempic, TRT, testosterone, tren, you fucking name it. This is natural, right? And to optimize that metabolism. So once you've done all 3 and you're looking $1 million and the wife's looking at you different, you're a good role model to your kids, right? And a good role model in society, whether you're a business owner or whether you're an employee or whether you're working inside a business, to be able to sustain that, that's the difference. And that's what we do, and that's why we are priced a little bit higher than our competition, because it's very manual. It's laborious for us to do. Right? It takes a certain type of person to do the work that we're doing, and all of the competition, they're not interested in that. They want to automate and scale, right? Hands off, don't care about the result, scale, make more money. That's it. We want to make more money, don't get me wrong. We don't want to automate, we want to get better results, and we want to be known as the coaching group and the company that if you want a fucking result and you really want to do it, everything else you've tried has failed, we're the guys that you hire.
Well, even off the back of that scan, I've easily done over 3,500 of the application calls that we go through. every single time we go through an application call, I'll ask these guys, are you aware of what an in-body scan or a DEXA scan is, and have you done one before? The large majority of the time, the guys who have tried things, they have done one before, because boot camps like to use them, and often PTs will like to use them, but they use it as a progress tracker. So it's basically the equivalent of you stepping on the scales at the start of a transformation and then stepping on the scales at the end of a transformation. But the large majority of the time, that's the only place that scan is getting used. Effectively, you're just taking a look at a number from a start to finish point, and that's it. It's not actually being used to work out where your metabolic baseline is and then build your calories off the back of that. So for any of these guys, if you've worked with a PT before in the past and you've got a scan, ask yourself what actually happened with it. Because the large majority of the time, I'm talking like 98% of the time when I ask these guys, they get that scan and then they put it in their office somewhere and it just sits there and collects dust.
Yeah.
That's all that happens with it.
The funny thing is too, they don't even look at any of the metrics besides weight.
Yeah.
They don't even look at body fat. They don't look at skeletal muscle mass. It's just like, cool, how much weight did you lose in this boot camp that you've done?
Yeah. Yeah. Or body fat percentage from start to finish. So
Correct.
you dropped 4 or 5 kilos worth of body fat and maybe you put on a little bit of muscle. It's point A to point B. That's it.
Generally speaking, in those boot camps, they lose muscle, right? It's so much cardio that's going into it. They're not eating right. They're eating, sometimes I've seen even 800 calories a day.
Yeah.
Man, good luck.
Because at the end of the day, the goal with those boot camps is A to B.
Correct.
You're obviously in a lot of pain right now. You want to get away from that pain. Let's get you there as quickly as possible. Even if it's a torturous process, you're going to get there. But you're not ever thinking about B to C, which is the maintenance of that process that you're going through, which is why the coaches don't care about what those scans actually look like. It's the equivalent of putting you on the scales. I was just explaining to Eman that,
Yeah, I get the concept.
within those scans, we're the only one who actually uses them.
Yep.
Every other coach will take that scan and give it to a client, and then they might do one 6 weeks later, but that's it. None of the coaches are actually using information within that scan.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the industry doesn't know what they're doing. And we spoke about this yesterday with Josh Weir, who had, tried everything under the sun, including an in-person PT, and I kind of said, look, in-person PTs, they're few and far between. They're like real estate agents. They like the idea of being able to make good money from home, work their own hours, be an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, but they soon realize that, hey, if you don't know the expertise and if you can't, be the best in a niche, category king and work with someone, whether it's rehab, knee pain, lower back, rebuilding men, which is our niche, or women, weight loss, pre-menopause, post-menopause, postpartum, whatever it may be, if you can't really be the best at something, you don't have a place in this marketplace at the moment, unfortunately.
No.
So like going back to the PT is, like Josh said, he paid for 12 sessions?
And PT didn't rock up.
The bloke didn't rock up. Like that's not because PTs are shit. That's just because it's a fickle industry. And this PT probably didn't want to be a PT. He got sucked into the Michelle Bridges fucking ad saying, do you want to make 6 figures, work from home, work in the park, do what you want and make a fucking piss take? As if. That's not how it works.
Well, another analogy is like a GP. You can go to a GP generally for most issues. If you've got a specialised issue, you're going to go to a specialist, aren't you? There's plenty of GP PTs out there who know what to do on paper and can give you a generic meal plan. But just take a look at what kind of results they've got. Do they have the expertise? Have they got a client who's got the same transformation you want? And then also what happens beyond that transformation? Because you can go work with an in-person PT, but take a look at what happens to their clients after you actually wrap up that transformation with them. Have they maintained the result, or do they even have confidence that they're going to know how to?
Well, it's specialist versus generalist. Like at 37, with the physique that I've got, would you say I'm a specialist, especially as a natural? Would you say I'm a specialist or a generalist?
A specialist.
The physique I've got. Most people would look at me on a pump in a singlet and go, he's not natty.
No.
I am natty. You guys know that, which means I'm a specialist. So my secret sauce and the method in which I use to get like this and which I teach is a specialist level of knowledge. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm following Lane Norton or Mike Israetel or fucking Jeff Nippard or any of these guys that have... These guys all have great physiques, but how many of them are natty? I think Lane's natty and I think Jeff's natty, but Jeff's also 5 foot.
Yeah.
So it's easy to look jacked. And I'm 5'10". So like I always tell my clients, look, I look bigger than I am because I'm short. Jeff Nippard's 5 foot.
We're the same weight, pretty much.
Me and you're the same weight and you're 6'4".
Yeah, what do you weigh? 93-ish?
No, I'm less. I'm 89.
Okay.
But I don't have much fat on me at the moment.
Take a look, do a comparison. Who looks bigger? Obviously, he does. I weigh more than him.
Yeah.
By a good 5 kilos at least.
Correct. I mean, the point I'm making is that, sure, I've got a result that not that many guys want. A lot of guys 35 don't want to look as big as me and don't want to be that lean. That's fine. But the fact that I know how to get there naturally means that I've got a level of expertise a little bit higher than the average bookworm. PT. And that's the specialist knowledge that comes from obsessing over something for 20 years. Like if you have done something obsessively and wanted to be the best for 20 years and you aren't above everyone else, then there's something fucking wrong with you. You're a fucking dud. You're just untalented.
It also means that you can get guys to levels close to where you're at, or like you said, that elevator analogy, wherever it is that they want to get
Correct.
off. If you've got that result, it means that we can get you
there if you want,
yeah.
or wherever you want to stop on that path.
Because guys look at maybe this and go, oh, I don't want to get that big, or I don't want that kind of result. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But the coaches that you're about to work with know how to get you wherever it is you want to get to.
In the fastest fucking path possible.
Yeah. Think about that ideal transformation that you want, and it might not be this, but if you want to get there, work with someone who knows how to do it.
And the biggest thing I say about that too is you've got someone here in me who's been from one extreme to the other. I've been every step of the way in between that, from really, I'd say obese to completely jacked and shredded, right? So definitely we can help you get any step of the process. It's just where do you want to get off on this elevator, on this ride?
Well, that helps more so with the relatability part because you can relate to it, whereas I can't. The heaviest I've been is 103, which is probably 18% body fat. I know the psychology and the reasons why these people get there, but I haven't been there. So people are like, oh, well, you don't know because you haven't done it. Well, I'm like, well, your co-coach has been there. So what excuse do you want to make? Because a lot of people make that excuse, don't they?
Yeah.
And just back to what you were saying, like it's the specialist knowledge versus the generalist knowledge. The reason that most F45s or boot camps or PTs have used the scan only to track progress is because they're generalists. They're not specialists. They don't understand what the LBM is, lean body mass, how many grams of protein you need to be eating per day based on how much muscle mass you have. The general consensus, Alex Hormozi, one of the most popular business guys at the moment, he just says, all you need to do is just eat 200 grams of protein. I challenge that because if you have 50 kilos of muscle, guess what? You don't need 200 grams of protein. You probably need 150. But if you've got fucking 90 kilos or 100 kilos, like some of our 6'4", 6'6" or Samoan clients, you probably need to be eating a bit more than 200 grams of protein to keep you satiated. Because as you mentioned constantly, protein is the most satiating macro out of the three. Well, macro, there's 4 macros: protein, carbs, fats, and alcohol. We don't mention alcohol as a macro in Australia because people don't need an excuse to fucking drink in our niche. Yeah. Anything that makes up a calorie is one of these 4 macros: protein, carbs, fats, alcohol. Protein is the most thermogenic by nature because it takes the body more energy to digest it. Right? So, when people say, oh, you just need to eat this much, or they talk about how many grams of protein you need based on your body weight, that's also bullshit because let's say I'm 90 kilos and I'm 84 kilos of muscle. Do I need more protein than someone that weighs 90 kilos, the same weight, who has 60 kilos of muscle? Do I need more protein? Of course I do. I've got more muscle than he does. So I need more protein. So it's not body weight. It's how much lean body mass, how much muscle mass you have. That determines how much protein you require. How do I know this? Because I've tested it for fucking 20 years on myself and on thousands of clients at this point. And again, that comes back to what we're talking about. That's specialized knowledge. That's not general knowledge, which comes from the textbooks being taught at Cert 3 and Cert 4, or the guys that are doing their own research, which just means I'm watching Mike Israetel and I'm watching Lane Norton and I'm watching Jeff Nippard and I'm watching Athlean X and I'm watching whoever it is on social media. That's, great, cool. Do they have 200 transformations? Do they have in-body scans of guys in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s? Graham, we're going to use Graham again, who have built muscle and burnt fat at the same period of time on a DEXA scan in 12 weeks. Do they have that information?
As a natural.
Without any gear, exactly, without any enhancements. No, they fucking don't.
Here's the other thing I'd say as well is be careful of anyone who has a system, right? Like you're a man and you need to be on 1,600 calories, they're rules that are set in stone. Here's the reason why we check in with you guys weekly is because we know that we're learning your body just as you're learning your body week to week, and we're adjusting on that. Because guess what? We have a general idea of how we need to go, and we know how to shift and change week to week. Most people, unless you've been in this field for a long period of time, you have no clue how to do that. And that's why we check in with you weekly, and there's no cookie cutter system that's going to get you from A to B in 12 weeks. Like we can't plan it out 12 weeks in advance because guess what? There's going to be spanners and things that get thrown in the works. We need to actually see, hey, how are you adjusting week to week so that we can learn with you as you're going week to week and make those adjustments to get you the result.
Yeah. Well, the classic example is, I mentioned in the last podcast, Drew Ivory.
Yeah.
He's like 4 kilos down on the scales.
Yeah.
But he's like 12 and 8.
Yeah.
Put on 8 kilos of lean body mass and he's lost 12 kilos of body fat. Now, he's an extreme example because he has muscle memory and he's done bodybuilding earlier and stuff like that. But that's the nuance that you're talking about. And again, back to what you were saying, that's the specialized knowledge and experience that we've developed over being in the trenches for this long versus a generalist, which is your F45, it's your boot camps, it's your new PTs, in-person PTs, online influencers who are more important, more focused on selling themselves and their fucking brand than they are getting a result.
Which is why it's cheaper.
Well, it is cheaper, but I mean, some of these guys are making a lot more money, and that goes down to like what our mission is. And I need to kind of get a bit more clear on this with us too. Like, we all want to make money, but not at the expense of a result. I've never wanted to make money and lots of it at the expense of the result. Like just doing it because I'm popular or funny or because I look good. There are online influencers and coaches that are making a lot more than us, but look at their fucking social media. Do they have the results that we have for blokes 35 plus? No, they don't.
And the input they're putting in versus what the result is as well. Like,
well, yeah.
No one puts in the level of effort that we do.
No chance. Which is, yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining me. Love coming to Melbourne. Fucking hate coming to Melbourne, but no, I don't. I like it. It's cool.
Weather's good today. That's
the weather is good today in Melbourne. And then where were you off to tonight? Spice Temple.
Yeah.
At Crown, yeah. And guess what? We can eat what the fuck we want because we're rebuilt. The metabolism's there, the muscle mass is there, everything's functioning, right? At 37, 30, and 18. What are you? 20?
My hairline doesn't sound 18.
What are you? 25?
24.
Quick plug for Ashley and Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. Use my promo code if I've got one. Or come to me.
You definitely need a promo code because his result, insert B-roll, Chafe, is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm more than happy to talk about my hair transformation because I'm on that tail end of it now.
Yeah.
In the meantime, talk about the rebuild.
Well, I mean, look, well, that's part of it, isn't it? I mean, if there are any of you guys that are clients of mine or potential clients of mine who are paranoid about hair loss, because the three of us certainly are, Joe here has had an insane result with Ashley and Martin. Like, literally insane. I show so many people this before and after.
I have to say, when I went into, this is way off topic, but when I went into the office with Connor, who's at Ashley Martin and Dandenong, shout out to you. I said to him, is this a normal transformation that most guys go through? Because when I came into the office, he sat down and went, I had to double check that you were the client that I had booked in for this appointment because I didn't believe what your transformation was in terms of your hair. I said, why is that the case? And he goes, because you're young, you're fit, you take care of your body, and you're healthy. So maybe take away young, fit, healthy, take care of my body. And he goes, your body would have reacted to the treatment that we've used, which is why you've had such a good result. Okay, yeah, I might be younger, sure. But those other three things,
correct,
take care of myself, which is why it worked for me so well.
Yep, for sure. Yep. And a big part of it is optimizing your hormones, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think is a finasteride that you put in?
Finasteride, yeah. Finasteride, minoxidil.
That stops the conversion of something to DHT or something along those lines?
Yeah, whatever
the to DHT.
Yeah, the hormone within your hair that basically tells that follicle that it's no longer needed. That's what blocks it.
Yeah.
But that process worked better because I take care of myself.
Well, look, it's a, what is it, a 12-month thing, is it? And there's a money back guarantee, I think, as well. Isn't there?
Money back guarantee. It is something that you have to stick on to for life, but it's like brushing my teeth at this point.
If you're
a topical treatment
but really, I mean,
it's nothing crazy.
Like us, if there's a money back guarantee, if we're saying, hey, you come in, you follow X, Y, Z, and you do the work and you do the process, you want the result, and you don't get it, we'll give you money back.
Yeah.
Like we do the same thing. If you come in and you don't lose 10 kilos, eating the meal plan 100%, checking in weekly, not missing a check-in call, doing your 5 workouts each week, if you submit to the process and trust the process, surrender to it, and just say, you know what, guys, tell me what to do and I'll do it, and you don't lose at least 10 kilos, most of our guys lose more than that, then we'll give you your fucking money back. So there's literally nothing to lose. And it's the same with what you're doing with Ashley and Martin. Come in, take the pill, put the fucking oil in, comb it through, do that.
Which for me was logical, because he actually asked me as well, he goes, how compliant have you been? And I said, I just did everything.
Yeah.
I said, I did it every single day.
Well,
he's like, well, most people don't.
It's stupidity. That's it. The compliance is the science.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the guys that end up filming with me on YouTube and end up all on my social media wall, and the guys that look like they've gone from 45 years old to fucking 30, and the guys that come in and maybe lose 10 kilos? The difference is compliance. Adherence is it. Compliance is the science. Stan Efferdine says it well. He's like, you've got to stick to it. But that's what you did.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I want my fucking hair back. I want thicker hair. I want to look, my age instead of my boss's age. What do? Take the pill, put the oil in, comb it through, do that daily. Don't miss out. Is that right?
Arguably the second best beard in the room.
There's no contest on that one.
Well, second. I said second.
Yeah, you said arguably. So
No contest? Okay.
I'm happy to keep the baby face. I'm the only one with the ginger beard, but is that really celebrational these days? I don't know.
yeah,
Anyway, let's conclude today's episode with compliance is the science. Sticking to the fucking plan will guarantee the result with the rebuild.
Yeah, get it done.
The two main things to change, in my opinion, and you made a third one, I'll let you elaborate on it, is your identity, who you see yourself as a man. If you continue to see yourself as a whiny, fat bitch slob that lets other people dictate your decisions, then you will remain one. And then your standards. If your standards are fucking weak and they're sloppy, like Robbo, Camo, Jono, and whoever, Davo, down at the fucking pub, then guess what? You're going to continue to look like these motherfuckers and you're going to be a shit role model. Your wife's probably going to be disinterested at some point and fucking leave you for Instagram or for TikTok. Don't believe me? Look around. Two things. Identity, standards. What was the third?
set a fucking goal.
Set a goal.
Not only where you want to be, but who you want to be. Be very clear on who you want to be and where you want to get to. And guess what? Then you can create a roadmap on how to get there.
Awesome. That's it. And the third one was poor man pays twice. Don't be these clients that take 6 years to get to us, and don't try keto, famous influencers app, winging it on your own, taking bits from YouTube, fasting, name some more, man shakes.
And don't get motivated speaking to me because I make it sound easy that you can then go do it on your own. I'm sick of that happening. Just because I make it sound simple doesn't mean it is.
Well, the thing is, though, if you were going to be able to do it on your own, you would have already done it by now.
Yeah, of
you know,
course you
a lot of our guys are 35 plus. You know, a lot of the guys you haven't come with 40 plus.
Oh, and I would love for someone to come and prove me wrong. I'm yet to have it happen. There's a number of guys which I can name because I put them in my calendar to touch base with you 6 months later.
Yeah.
And I said, if you think you can go do it on your own, come prove me wrong in 6 months.
Yeah.
I don't know, fucking.
Well, that's it. If
Is
you could
anyone
done
getting
it,
any calls at the moment? Because I'm not.
no. If you could have done it on your own, you would have. Because, I mean, and how, where do you start? How many calories you start on? How many grams of protein? Carbs, fats, accountability. How many am I supposed to be losing? If you don't lose a kilo a week, what do you do? You know, if you're feeling unmotivated, who do you call? What training program are you following?
I know how to train. I generally eat all right.
Yeah, I love that. It's good. But anyway, that's the takeaway from episode 5. We have a dinner that we're running late to, which is typical MPT fashion. To follow us on, what is it? It's on YouTube.
You'll find us. Type up Mike.
YouTube,
Yeah.
Spotify, Apple.
Type in
Music.
MPT Rebuild, Mike Petersen with an E, because I'm not a Nazi German. We're wrapping up. We're done. Until next time, stay natty.
See you later.
How do we become the top natty? No holds barred. Yeah, well, we're leaning towards a bit of no holds barred, aren't we?